Back at it again with the white.
Okay, all right, so, okay, what's my intro I'm supposed to use?
Hey guys, it's Pacho here.
Hey yo, it's your boy.
It's your boy.
I don't think I have the street cred to actually say, hey, it's your boy. Oh, yes, it's that boy. Anyway, all right, notes. Okay, 4.2. All right, so now, like I said before, my notes, the way I do this is completely different than what's on the paper. So if you're not paying attention or you're just sitting there messing with someone next to you, you're going to completely fail at this because my way is quite specific. It's very easy. It's very easy, okay? So, but it's different things to do than what you're going to see on any of the slides. So therefore, you guys actually have to pay attention and follow along. All right, so horizontal translation. So that means that we're going to move it left and right. Okay? We're going to move our graph left and right. That's what we're going to do. Okay? So for this one right here, this is actually a tangent function. But if you notice, the original function is here in blue. Now, minus, remember this is opposite. When you took algebra 3, 4 and you actually you're moving a parabola, you're moving the vertices of the parabola, right? It would be opposite left and right, isn't it? Yeah. So opposite left and right. So if it's minus 4, that means it's going to the right 4. If it's plus 4, it's going to the left 4.
Oh yeah.
Okay? So it's opposite what it is left and right. And I'll show you how that applies in our thing. Okay? So in our notes, hopefully if I could actually remember this one, I'll do it right. Now, okay. So right here, this is called the phase shift. Okay, phase shift is moving it left and right. And the whole thing right here, it's called the argument. So it will be mentioned like that. Okay, so now for right here. So let's pretend like I'm doing this normally. Just like I taught you in the last section. What would be the first thing I do? Amplitude. Okay, amplitude. Amplitude is what?
1.
Thank you. Period. 2 pi over. Now, remember, it's the number in front of my variable.
Oh, the answer's going to be 6.
The number in front of my variable. My variable is what? X. What's the coefficient?
1. What? Oh, shoot.
It's
Okay.
the number in front of my variable. The variable is X. There's no number there, but there's always one thing there. But now, and it's going to be 1, so it's going to be 2 pi, right? So my period is going to be 2 pi. Okay? Now, start with my parts. Now, I'm going to add a little bit to my parts here. I'm going to add a little bit to my parts. Okay, so I'm going to do my 0, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1. All right. First thing I did, okay, these are my parts. And I would multiply by the period. So that's times 2 pi, right? Okay, so times 2 pi.
What did you put up at the top?
Parts or period. Sorry, I don't know why the pen is not working very well today. So leave some gaps. There. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do is this is my phase shift. Okay?
Face?
I think it's spaceship over there.
Yes, I said spaceship. I said spaceship because it says spaceship right here. Okay? Right here, this is where it says spaceship. So phase shift, I abbreviated PS. Just right.
Alright.
Okay, is everyone there?
No.
I am.
So phase shift is pi over 3 spaceship.
So does that mean we go? So does that mean you go right by 3?
I can't see.
All right, there is the seat right here for you.
That's because you're in the way.
I know I'm in the way. I'm right-handed, so I am going to cover a part of it.
Right.
All right, so next piece is minus. This is always going to be a minus. Always going to be a minus. Okay? Minus my phase shift. My phase shift is going to be what?
1 over 3.
Pi over 3. Negative pi over 3.
Is it always going to be minus?
Did I say always?
No, I mean even if.
Did I say always?
He
Okay.
said always.
It's always going to go minus.
Oh.
Always.
Okay.
Always. Then I put whatever my phase shift is here. Okay? My phase shift is minus pi over 3. And now that's going to help with my pieces because I know it's always going to the opposite direction, right? So if I go back to my other graph, if it's minus, it means it goes to the right. And that's going positive numbers, isn't it? Okay, so minus my phase shift. Okay, so now let's look at our numbers. So 0 times pi over 2. 0. Minus this gives me a plus, right? Pi over 3. So it is 0, so that means that is my start of my graph. Okay? So now, 1/4 times 2 pi. It's 2 pi over 4, or it's just pi over 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to show my math right here. So it's pi over 2 plus pi over 3.
You have to have the same.
Common denominator, right? Okay, it is going to be 6. Okay, now here's kind of a cheater method on this, so you don't really have to do much, but plug stuff in. Okay, so as long as you disregard the pi, your calculator will do it. What do you use in your calculator instead of pi?
1.
1, very good. So it's going to be 3 times this is going to give me 3 pi, right? 3 pi. 2 times this plus 2 pi all over 2 times 3?
6.
6. So add those together. You get 5 pi over 6. Now this is the point that you would actually do any reduction in your calculator. Does 5 over 6 reduce?
No.
No, it does not. It doesn't reduce, so I just leave that. So that one's my second part.
It's not units.
Okay, is it on the unit circle? Yeah, we're gonna get things that are not on the unit circle. So it's not always gonna be there. Okay? Alright, so now let's take a look at this one. So this is gonna be 1/2 times 2 pi. Pi, right? So it's gonna be pi plus pi over 3. Now, as a fraction, this pi right here is over what?
1.
There it is. It is over 1, right? So I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to do the same thing I did. Cash 4.2 is here somewhere.
4.2.
Yeah, 4.2. I just handed it out. Somewhere here. Okay, thank you. All right, so do the same thing again. So it's going to be 3 pi plus pi over 3, right?
So you're just gonna have 5.
what's
Oh,
3
wait, no,
pi
never mind.
plus pi?
Sorry.
4 pi.
4 pi. There's 4 pi. 4 pi over 3. Cannot reduce 4 pi over 3, right? Okay. All right, next part. Next part. 3 over 4 times 2 pi.
3 pi over 6.
So it's going to be what?
3 pi over 6.
3 pi over 6. Can I reduce 3 pi over 6?
Yeah. Oh, what?
Okay, now, is this one right? 3 pi over 6 is that it?
No. So, wait.
It's 6, right?
Yeah.
6 over 4. That will reduce to what? 3 over 2. There we go. So 3 pi over 2 plus pi over 3.
So,
Now I'm going to do the same thing I just did. So this times this, 9 pi,
plus
2 pi
over 6.
over 6, which gives me
11 pi, which does not reduce.
11 pi over 6.
Wait, what? Why'd you multiply?
I only see the homework system notes. Oh yeah, here, it's on the bottom here. There you go.
All right, did I confuse anyone here?
Wait, how come?
How come what?
Never mind, got it.
Yes, no, maybe? All right, last one right here. Because we're graphing over one period, I stop right here.
Hi, Dad.
Judith. Right. Okay, so now let's go ahead with this. So this is going to give me 2 pi plus pi over 3. Right? So that 2 pi is over what? There we go. So that's going to give me 6 pi plus pi over 3. So together I get 7 pi over 3.
7 pi. 7 pi over 3.
Now, did you guys write all this down?
Yep.
Okay, because I'm going to ask you for these here in a moment.
Is it okay if we like? Is it okay if we just like write the formulas but not like answer?
I recommend the work because that's going to be like one of the hardest things to actually get at. Yes, Dan.
You're gonna cross multiply and then take the multiply the bottom and then put it in the
Okay, here let me show you some pathways on this. Okay, so it's going to be 3 times pi, 2 times pi, and then my last one's going to be 3 times 2. So this is my 3 times pi, right? 3 times pi is there. My 2 times 3 is on the bottom, and 2 times pi is on top. Does that make sense? Okay. Alright, okay. So now I'm going to do my graph now. I know it says that, but I already did all my tables on the previous slide. So let's take a look, and I'm going to do my graph. So if I do my graph over 1, now, what was my amplitude? So it goes up to 1, and it goes down to, there we go, up to 1, down to -1. Now, the next thing, I know that this is 0 here, right? Okay, but I'm not starting at 0 on this one, am I? No, this is a shift. So now, where was my 0 lined up at now? Pi over 3. So my first point should be right here at pi over 3. Next one. Next one.
4 pi.
Next one.
A little pi over 6.
And last one was what?
7 pi over 3.
Oh, yeah.
Now, this one here, is it sine or cosine? It was cosine?
No, it's fine.
How do you know?
Because it says sine right there, right? That's where I get that. Okay, now, sine starts at
0.
0. So now, my 0 part is not at 0 here, is it? My 0 part was where? Pi over 3. So that's going to be where I place my starting point. I put my starting point right here at 0, right? Because sine always starts at 0. Okay? So it starts 0. So cosine would start at 1 or negative 1 depending on my amplitude.
When we're doing these ones, we have to put in the 0.
What do you mean?
Before we didn't have to use 0 in the math. So in these ones, we
Yes,
have
we're adding more to this, yes.
Okay.
Because you want to know where your starting position is
Yeah.
because it's no longer starting at 0.
Okay.
Okay? So, now for right here, now this is sine. Is it a positive amplitude or a negative amplitude? Positive amplitude or negative amplitude? Positive. So if it's positive, this is going to go up. Thank you. It's going to go up. So it's going to go up right here. It's going to go up to 1. So after it goes up to 1, it goes where? Down to 0. And from there it goes down to negative 1. And from there it goes back to 0. So there is my whole wave.
And it doesn't go back down at 0 to negative 1.
No, because that's actually, I don't think that's one of my parts.
Okay.
Okay. So if I was doing over 2 period and I had to go backwards also, I would have to actually include the negative portion. Okay, I would have negative parts. And if it said graph over 2 periods, I would actually do my parts, but then I would do,
Times 2.
so, no. Okay, so now I had 0, quarter, half, 3/4, 1. And there, from there, I would actually have to go to the next one, which would be,
1 and 1 4.
so yeah, but this is 4 over 4, right? The next one would be 5 over 4, 6 over 4, 7 over 4, 8 over 4. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at this next one. So this is a pretty graph of what I'm supposed to have here. Not saying that mine's not pretty, but.
It's so cool.
Okay. All right, so showing the phase shift. All right, so now, this one right here, again, over 1 period. Same step applied. What do I start off with? Amplitude. Every single time, start with your amplitude and go from there. So my amplitude, 3, period, over 1. So do I have to do that anymore? No, it's just 2 pi over 1, right? Okay, so now from there, I do my parts, right? That goes next? Parts?
Yeah.
Okay, parts. 0, quarter, half, 3/4, 1. So there's my parts. So now I have to multiply this by 2 pi. Right? Now what do I do?
The face minus
Minus
pi over 4.
pi over 4. Minus pi over 4. Okay, so let's do our math right here. 0 times 2 pi. 0 minus pi over 4. Negative pi over 4. Okay. See this number right here?
Oh, just kidding.
This is called by what? Phase shift. Not spaceship. Phase shift, right?
Hey, that might be a good way for us to
Yeah, spaceship.
remember. Like.
Or you can just remember it as phase shift because it's phase shift. All right, anyway.
Understand spaceship.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, so right here, what do we get? Pi over 2. So pi over 2 minus pi over 4.
Oh,
Right?
So it's gonna be.
Do my math. Okay, go across here, so it's going to be 4 times pi. 4 pi minus. There's a minus sign on this time. Minus. That's where I include my minus sign here.
Save your time and make the common denominator 4 and just multiply the 1 by 2, and that would have been so much faster.
It's actually not. Okay, so this is going to give me minus 2 pi
Time reduced.
over 8.
So it's gonna be 2 pi over 8, which is 1 over 4.
There we go.
And I would have gotten
2 pi over 8 equals pi over 4. Yes?
Sure.
Okay, let's do the next one.
this is getting kind of easy.
All right, what do we get here?
It's just a long.
Yeah.
That's most of your work in class. It's all easy. It's just a lot of like a long process. That's annoying.
Ah!
Oh my god.
No, Tacho. You mispronounced that. Tacho. I know, right? Okay. So this gives me pi, right? Yes, pi minus pi over 4. Right? And the pi is going to be over 1 as my fraction. So that's going to give me 4 pi minus pi over 4, which gives me
3 pi over 4.
Huh? You can.
Then why are we writing
Because, knowing math is a good thing. You could do it by hand too. If you don't know like basic fractions, we're going to have issues. Okay.
Say that again?
Basic fractions.
No.
If you don't know basic fractions, we're going to have issues.
No, you didn't say it right.
I felt fractions.
Is there like a way of saying it?
You
No,
said
you
like
said it
a
funny the
southern.
first time.
Was it funny the first time?
You said
Yeah,
like
but
a
you said
southern.
it wrong the
Like,
second time.
we gonna have some issues.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Anyway.
Three times.
Anyway, all right, back to the math. All right, so 3 over 4 times 2 pi.
6 pi.
Reduce it.
2 5.
3 pi over 2.
What? How'd you?
Yeah.
Okay, it's 6 over 4, right? 6 over 4 reduces
Oh, yeah.
by a factor of 2.
2 pi.
Okay, so 3 pi over 2 minus pi over 4, which is going to give me 12 pi, right?
Minus 2 pi.
Minus 2 pi over 8, which gives me 10 pi over 8, which reduces to, what is it? 5 pi over 4.
Yay, we did it.
We did it. Yeah.
I still got the last one.
Okay.
Last one. 2 pi over 1 minus pi over 4. I said pi and I still wrote 2.
So 8 pi.
So it's going to be 8 pi minus pi over 4, which gives you a grand total of
7
Senpai.
Yay.
I'm always in this head now. Senpai. Not senpai.
all right. So, you guys have all those written down?
Yep.
Okay.
Sure.
So let's go to the next slide.
Wait, we don't have time for one more?
We're going to.
Oh my god,
Like
like in
5
5,
minutes.
like in 3 minutes.
Okay. So let's take a look. I have my graph. My amplitude is 3. So it goes up to 3, down to.
Negative 3.
Okay. I'm going to mark 0.
But we don't start.
I'm going to mark 0. So what was my starting point?
Negative 5 over 4. Wait.
Negative pi over 4, right?
Yeah.
What was the next one?
5 over 4.
Next one.
3 pi over 4. 5 pi over 4. Brain rush.
5.
Pi over 4. And sen pi over 4. You know, let the C student have it, okay?
Now,
Soon to be athletes.
cosine. Cosine starts at
Above the line.
1. Cosine starts at 1, just like sine starts at 0, right? But it's not going to start at 1 because my amplitude is 3. So now it's going to start at 3. So cosine is going to start at 3. So my starting point, which is negative pi over 4, is going to start right here. Okay, and at pi over 4, it's going to be 0. At 3 pi over 4,
Negative 3.
5 pi over 4, and 7 pi over 4.
He tried not to say 7
Wait, what? Oh, I spaced out.
Yeah, I kind of. It's not as uniform on this side. Forgive me, I'm sorry. So my graph is not very. Okay. Anyway.
It's cute. It's pretty.
Anyway. All right. Questions? Are we okay here?
Yeah, I get it.
I have a friend that anytime anyone says something stupid, she'll go, "Oh, you're great."
So if it should look something like that, I tried. All right. Okay. Don't forget. Okay. This is where I say like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Like, subscribe, right?
This video to 11
7,000
likes.
likes.
Share, comment down below.
I know. I still haven't got up to 100 likes or anyone. So there was supposed to be.
Demonetized.
Okay.